Everybody, and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. A mystery as a 10-foot tall creature, darker than night, was spotted roaming near Humberside Airport, and this report came in on February 19th, 2020. The original source, which is a Hull Live, stated he claims the beast ran across the road near Humberside Airport. Now, a local man who saw a 10-foot creature that was described as darker than the night when it ran across the A18 near Humberside Airport has encouraged others to come forward with their sightings. Lee Solway, who runs the Realm of the Supernatural podcast with his host Mr. McFinch, both members of BBR Investigations, said they would be discussing some of the area's most infamous cases at the Research and Witness Convention, which is known as RARCON, which is up and coming, at Prince's Quay Shopping Centre. Now, the convention will run between Friday, February the 28th, and Sunday, the 1st of March. I will be speaking on behalf of BBR Investigations at 1 p.m. on the Saturday, the 29th. Now, Lee said they would be discussing the strange sightings reported from all across the region, including Hull's infamous Old Stinker and other tales. We want to see if there are other witnesses who could come forward and share their encounters, he said. Lee, who was reported on his co-host's behalf, stated a black mass about 10 feet tall had recently been seen and reported crossing in the A18 road. The creature was first spotted and reported by an elderly couple and then was witnessed by his co-host Fincher. Mr. McFinch thought what he saw was a ghost at first. He could see it had a humanoid form, but it was darker than the night and darker than the dark around it, and it just moved across the road. We went back the next day and there was a hole in the bottom of the hedgerow, so something could have crossed there at that point. Soon after the sighting, Lee's co-host Mr. Finch also found and photographed 2 deer legs that were left laying in the road as he was driving home one night. I just think that's a little bit strange, Lee said. The picture quality on the image isn't great, as it was taken from inside the car because he was really creeped out, which I think is understandable. I mean, how often have you come across 2 random deer parts on the road? If it was roadkill, where was the rest of the animal? Now, there's no drag marks on the road surface. Lee said when you tell people about the legs, they say it's just poachers. And yeah, poaching does go on, but why would a poacher stop in the middle of the A1 to butcher a deer carcass or leave perfectly good meat behind? And I have to agree with him on that one. Now, the Old Stinker mentioned by Lee is a famous tale for Hull and East Yorkshire, and it goes back centuries in folklore. Usually described as a half-man, half-dog-like creature, Old Stinker is mostly seen stalking the area around Barmston Drain near Beverley. Now, it's even reportedly been seen eating a dog before being spooked by the onlookers and jumping over an 8-foot fence with the dog still in its mouth. But that is far from the only strange sighting reported in the region. South of the river, there has been quite a few sightings of a half-deer, half-man creature, very similar to the puka in Celtic folklore. Lee said you also get Bigfoot sightings that run up and down the A15. Now, the horned creature was spotted on a number of occasions and is described like that of a satyr or a pan-type being. Lee said he and his co-host had started his podcast after having several different encounters with a shadow man and a UFO many years ago. He said his opinions on the supernatural are often met with skepticism, but he still believes there are more people out there yet to share their experiences. He said one of my mates was talking about his dogman sighting, and this other guy suddenly got interest. Now, this other guy would normally poo-poo this sort of thing as he's in his late 70s, but he asked what he was talking about, and the gent explained to him what had happened when he'd seen this dogman. And the older gentleman said, well, that's what I must have run over all them years ago then. He said it had been a foggy morning, he was driving his Mini, and he hit something crossing the road. and it had spun the Mini in 360 degrees. He said he saw an animal lying there, and it sprang up and turned around. It had yellow eyes, it had the hind legs of a dog, and it bounded off. And he had carried that with him for 30 years. So there are more people out there. Now Lee is asking others to come forward to share their experiences, anonymously if need be, for them to discuss it at the upcoming convention if possible. I expect people to be doubtful, but it's just out in our makeup, Lee said. We used to have acceptance of these things in the past, but with technology and the rest of it, we've moved away from the spiritual side of things. But people do run into it now and again. Like many people, they will get the feeling of being watched and things like that. I can't explain that. We do still have this ability to believe these things. We just tend not to use it, Lee says. Now, those wanting to share their stories can get in touch with Lee and Finchy via the podcast email, which is supernaturalpodcast@gmail.com, or by emailing debbiehatswell@gmail.com. But I've added both of those emails into the link. Now, there are a number of reports close to the A15 in the area. One report, Hibblestow 8-foot black creature, was seen moving off into the reeds, and that was reported by a couple who were driving along the same stretch of road the deer legs were recovered from. Now, they reported the sighting that happened, and they reported it on the 18th of the 6th, 18 to myself. They stated it was between 1:30 and 2 p.m. Myself and my partner were travelling on the A15 heading towards Lincoln. There's a lay-by on the road, which is roughly a mile or so from the Hibblestow turn-off. And as we were driving, we saw an upright moving figure. And as we were moving along the road, it kept moving. We saw him about 20 foot past the lay-by. He was upright, on two legs. He was all black in colour, and he was heading away from the road. He was moving through the reed grasses and on into the bushes where we lost sight of him. I realised it was broad daylight, and there was other traffic on the road, so this should not have happened. It wasn't a dark, lonely road at night. It wasn't in the middle of a vast forest, which is how I've been trying to debunk it to myself, she said. But nevertheless, I can't talk myself out of what I saw. It might seem impossible to some, but I am certain of what I saw, and so is my partner. Another witness contacted the local newspaper to report a strange dark bipedal creature in Bradley Woods. Another couple using a woodland along the A15 made this report in 2007. My husband and myself were camping in Willingham Woods, as we are keen bird watchers, and on the first night everything was fine. On the second night we were startled by a loud screech or a howl, not a noise we've heard before. I asked my husband what bird it was, but he had no idea. We left the tent, it was about 3 a.m. It was very quiet and still. And off to the left, about eye to eye with myself, I saw a greenish eye shine. That settled us as it was dark, and my husband explained it was probably just an owl. At that point, the owl stood up to about 7 feet and started to walk off from us. We packed up at 6 a.m. and we will not be returning. Another report from the 1970s talks of the Dorrington half-man, half-ape, and it was spotted by a man. And he said he spotted a half-man, half-animal entity, and he was so scared he called the police. Various postmen in the village talk of seeing strange things, but it's unclear whether these are the same entity as the November sighting, the half-man, half-ape. It's also been reported that the sighting may be connected to an old Anglo-Saxon burial ground close to the bridge. Reports of the area being haunted by the Shagfoal Road go back almost 100 years. And I did find it interesting that one of the roads just off Shagfoal is named Boggart Road. The A15 has a number of very strange reports that come in from drivers using the road. From footsteps heard in the middle of the night to unexplained lights being seen in abandoned buildings. Lincolnshire has its fair share of paranormal goings-on. Along with the Ruskington Horror from 1998, many apparitions have been seen along the A15 for decades. One person described having a face suddenly appear from the front pillar of his car windscreen on the driver's side with its left hand raised up. He said it had dark hair and olivey-green skin with a pitted face. He somehow carried on driving with whatever it was in place for at least 40 to 50 seconds. Other drivers have reported seeing a white shape that turns into a man who has his arms raised as if to warn drivers about something. After he has been seen, he fades away into the mist. One person who was driving along the road when they thought they saw someone run in front of the vehicle. The driver was left absolutely certain they had accidentally killed someone, but after stopping, they found there was no one to be seen anywhere. The A15 has a number of very strange reports that come in from drivers, as I say, using the road. Where the A18 and the A115 meets between Scarby and Sturton, there's an area known as Lidgett's Gap. And somewhere in Lidgett's Gap, it said there's a single ash tree. And that ash tree marks a site of hidden treasure. It is protected, couldn't say it then, it is protected by a boggart. Harm will come to those who search for the treasure or trespass on the land. Well, whether you head north or south, west even, there are more reports of strange creatures described as dogmen and shucks and wild men and ape-like creatures. There are also numerous paranormal and unexplained events. If you're local to the area and you would like to help us investigate these cases, please get in touch on the emails that I mentioned earlier that are down in the description. So if you'd like to come out and meet Deborah and Lee or Finchie, you can get tickets to the Raw conference. The link to that is also in the description below. And if you would like access to this map, that is possible as well. I'll add the link into the description for you. And it will give you the opportunity to have a look and see if there is anything in your area. So if you're in the Hull area and you know anything about a report that we don't know, please get in touch. Or if you'd just like to have a chat with us about it, you've got a film project coming up, you want Lee or myself to speak at a conference, just let us know and we will do what we can do to accommodate you. So thank you very much for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Good night.